Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. My partner in crime, Brockton Ellis, joins us from the beautiful Hudson Valley up outside New York City. I'm located just outside the perimeter in ATL, Shouty. All right, let's get right to it. We can't mince words. Bernie and AOC out there tearing it up, getting big crowds in ruby red. And I mean, it doesn't get any redder than Idaho, and they sold out the arena they spoke at. But Brock, my question is, what's our end goal with this tour? Besides to promote, the leadership images of Bernie and AOC, what are we getting at here? Where are we headed?
Look, they definitely right. They're tapping into the white anger, right? They're specifically going into MAGA districts. They've targeted some places where the congressman has not been willing to show up at town halls, right? So they're filling the void. They're hitting the economic message. They're going after Trump directly, which I love, right? AOC's great
Right.
at that. So they're punching him in the nose. So they're definitely riling up that group on the right that we need in the mix, right? So I think they're accomplishing a piece of the puzzle, right? They're establishing the economic argument. It's the Fight the Oligarch Tour, right? It's focused on the economic pushback. The taxes are going to screw you, income inequality, they're breaking unions and the like. They're doing half the, the job, in my opinion.
Right.
They're not necessarily hitting the social ills of America, but maybe two people can only do so much. So they're showing that they're kind of helping to change sentiment. I think they're a part of why Trump's approval ratings are going down. Like, they're making noise, they're breaking through. So they're definitely accomplishing a goal of chipping away at Trump's veneer and chipping away at some MAGA support.
Right.
I think that's what they're
So
doing. What do you think they're accomplishing?
I agree with you that they're hitting the nerve of that white anger, right, in these ruby red districts, and they're getting the bright red disaffected MAGA voter all riled up. How long can we keep them riled up? And can we keep them riled up when we start talking about social justice, right? Because they're not really talking about Abrega Garcia, right, and bringing him home. We're not talking about police reform. We're not talking about DEI and equity. So, like, are they going to be as rowdy and as angry as we saw them earlier tonight in Cobb County, Georgia? Marjorie Taylor Greene had the nerve to show up at a town hall meeting in which police had to remove protesters by force. I
Get
mean, this
out of
thing was
here.
getting ugly. This thing was getting ugly.
Really?
Yes, just happened less than an hour ago.
Okay,
So,
because, all right, it's interesting.
yeah. So, look, what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing is right in line with the message that Bernie and AOC are touting, right? That fight the oligarchs, abusing the privilege of having access to information by
Yeah,
buying
yeah, yeah,
stocks low,
yeah.
and just literally insider trading and suffering off others' pain, right? I mean, they're profiting off of the suffering and others' pain. And it's so frustrating to watch because even with these amazing crowds, like what are we doing? What are we stopping?
But what's interesting, yeah, I saw a clip of Grassley doing a town hall, and
Mhm.
his all-white audience was going after him on this deportation, saying,
Wow.
"Yeah, the white crowd. Why haven't you brought him back?" And Grassley was like, "Well, that's not within Congress's powers, right?" And this guy's like, "Well, if I got like $1,000 citation, could I just blow it off? Donald Trump's, not, is
In
blowing off
jail?
Supreme
Right.
Court, dictate." Like, and then the clip ends with the guy going, "I'm pissed," right? Classic white guy in the Midwest, right? So it was interesting, even though it really hasn't been a focus of Bernie and AOC. It even that is pissing off white America. So maybe there's
Yeah.
some hopeful sign in that, and this
Right.
might even go past. They might even be thinking past that it's a brown person and the fact that they all voted for this shit and they all raised placards that say deport them now at the
Right.
Republican convention. But I think maybe there's just something about this that feels like there's a wrongness to it,
Yep.
and they know that the MAGA is lying about it now, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just hitting on some different nerves. But having said that, having said that, all these things are bubbling. All
Right.
these little things are happening around the country of different sizes. But my issue is like, I'm not, what are we really accomplishing? We haven't really stopped anything that
Nope.
Doji's done.
Nope.
All the atrocities are happening. The deportations are still happening left and right, right? They're under cover of night doing these flights to El Salvador. So we just haven't accomplished anything.
Right. We haven't
And I
shut
think it's
down
because
any
the
of the
message,
magnets.
yeah, the message hasn't been aggressive enough. The leadership hasn't been aggressive enough. It has not unified yet to be a white, black, and brown coalition that's fighting white supremacy. So none of those things have happened yet. And, I'm getting all the emails about the 50 for 51 marches on the 19th, which is Saturday. Maybe I'll go. I'm not as inspired to go. I get it. Each march has to build on itself.
Right.
But yeah, I went to the march in New York when it was huge. What did we accomplish? Except for knowing that there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way, I don't think we've accomplished anything yet because
Right.
we haven't thrown down the gauntlet and said the goal of all this
Right.
is the absolute removal of Donald Trump. Like, we're playing this to the end game. We're not going out there just to feel good that there's other people frustrated also. What
Yeah.
the fuck does that do? That doesn't change. That doesn't beat fascism. Like, this is a fucking knife fight.
Yeah. And I don't think there has to be some sort of legal remedy to defying a Supreme Court order, right? There has to be some sort of penalty, right? And I can't imagine how it doesn't rise to high crimes or misdemeanors.
Definitely does, but the Congress is going to ignore it. But the Democrats should be talking impeachment because the word should be out there
Yeah.
and
Yep.
everything should be talked about as an impeachable offense. Like, the pressure campaign should start now. It might take a while and it might
Yep.
seem futile now, but the words we have to use have to be impeachment. Like, someone got out and was talking. It was the guy in Tennessee, the young kid in Tennessee, not the great orator, the other guy. I think his
Yeah.
name's Jones, Janelle Jones. And he gave a speech. I listened to it and he kept saying, well, this is not normal, not normal. I'm like, you got to bury the words not normal. Because not normal could be positioned as something positive. It's not
Exactly.
normal if I hit 10 3-point jumpers in a row. Hey, that's not normal. Okay. So not normal doesn't necessarily mean devastating, atrocious, anti-American, anti-democratic. Like, use the harsher language that gets us to impeachment because words matter. So I want the
Right.
leaders to start using more direct language about the end game. I want us to start talking impeachment, and all these marches have to start happening with the goal that we're out here to shut shit down.
Right.
We're not going to
Right.
let America just operate as if nothing destructive is happening. And I still feel like that's the way we've operated so far.
Absolutely. And shifting gears just a little bit, it was great to see Harvard push back. We needed that. We needed, a first class institution to stand up to Trump's BS and trying to tell them who to hire, what to teach, what to think. How do we tell one of the premier universities in the world, that you're doing this wrong?
And you said they should do it because they have the money to do it. They have the
They
endowment.
got they
And
got
now
the money to do it.
now the Yale faculty's out on the streets saying that Yale's got to do it. The new Columbia interim president saying we need our independence. So, there's strength in numbers, right? Now all of a sudden you get, makes it a little easier for the next person to stand up when someone is, I
Right.
don't love Harvard, but I love them today because
But they're leading the way.
they're
Right.
doing the right thing.
Right. And I heard one of the Harvard officials last night just talking about, we're going to be an independent institution and we're going to be free to make the decisions we feel are in the best interest of our students, which is absolutely it's why people come from all over the world to pay tuition at these illustrious
Yeah, a
universities.
place like I mean, yeah, they protected their brand, right? I mean,
Right.
for the next 100+ years, right? They made a decision like we're
Absolutely.
not going to buckle and be tarnished for the rest of our lives, like so many others have. Like, I don't know how all
Right.
those law firms ever come back for this. Like, Target doesn't look like they're ever going to come back. Tesla's never going to come back. Like, there's certain brands that are just like, they're just, everyone's always going to remember them for the negative,
Yep.
right? Of how they acted in this moment.
Right. And I saw a picture. Speaking of brand recognition, again, it didn't have Target made this decision consciously and decided
Yeah,
to
they made a
follow
choice, they
Donald
made a
Trump's lead.
business decision.
Yeah,
So
and
Mark,
and and that's and
I
now
want
it's
to take you in
killing
a
them.
different I want to take you in a different direction. I got in a back and forth with a
Okay.
black guy on Blue Sky today. Maybe I
Okay.
shouldn't have, right? Because I think he does a podcast as well. And he had a clip up and he was talking about how, hey, blacks voted 86% for Kamala. And, we're
Hmm.
doing the economic this and we've done this on Target. And, don't get mad at us just because we're not protesting in the way you want us to, right? I think a message to like white
Right.
America, right? And I think it
Right.
was sent and received the right way by me as white America. And I kind of went back and said, you know what? At this point, I don't care anymore who anybody voted for. I don't give a shit. Guy in Iowa who's pissed at grass, like I think like it doesn't matter anymore. We're 6 months past it. We are where we are today, and I think we got to. I'm saying this to Black America. You got to stop hanging your hat on who you voted for. Like we're in a knife fight today. Yes, that sucks. We got to put that behind us. And I also said, like, the economic boycotts are great. I'm doing every one of them that I can think of as well. They have an impact, but let's face it, they're not enough.
Right.
Like, they're not really stopping the negative shit from happening. Like, you're going
Right.
to have to ultimately get out on the streets, was my message.
Right.
Second, so I'm going to let you talk in a second. Second point is I saw a Harry Dunn tweet later
Okay.
in the day where Harry Dunn listed a whole bunch of people: Bernie, AOC, Jasmine, Cory Booker, Chris Van Hollen, right? Because he's talking about going to El Salvador. Jamie Raskin, like, love what you guys are doing. If you show you'll stand up for us, we'll be in support behind you. That was Harry Dunn to those leaders he felt was doing the right thing,
Right.
which is what we've talked about. Now, only 3 of those leaders were white, but that's at least 3 of them are white, right? That Harry Dunn's saying are doing the right thing, and if you keep doing shit like this, I think he was speaking for the black community, he may have been speaking broader.
Yeah. Right. I get the podcaster's point, right? Because even though some time has passed, we still feel like the blame is on us, right? But what are you talking about? We had 83% black males voting for Kamala and 92% black females, right? We understood the assignment, right? But we still feel like we're getting the blame. So white America's out here now, finally, and I think black folks are more surprised than anything else, right? But they're also upset because black folks are saying, we've been telling you this, right, for 400 years. We've been telling you the system is not fair. We've been telling you to stop killing us. We've been begging you for police reform. We've been begging you for access to opportunity in the boardroom. So black folks are still processing. Now, I totally agree with you. We got to get past the vote, right? We got to get past who did what and work to. You and I have already said we're up to probably beyond the constitutional crisis. We agree there. And we know that Donald Trump is driving this thing right off a cliff. The world is moving on without us. So if we don't act now in a unified manner, there ain't going to be no country to save. I agree with Harry Dunn. I feel like if white America, and this, remember we talked about this last week, you said, what does black America need to hear? I said, we need to hear white America say, we hear you. We understand your grievances. This place has not been perfect, but it's the best country on earth, and we will work with you, right, to deal with some of these systemic issues. But we can't fix it overnight because right now we got a lunatic in the White House that's driving us off a fucking cliff. And we're going to have nothing to work with if we wait 2-4 years down the road. So yes, I'm with Harry Dunn. If he says, let's get out here with AOC and Bernie, I'm happy to file in the back of the line, right? Because those rubber bullets will be reserved for up front, and the real bullets will be reserved for the brown folks in the back.
Yeah, white people got to be out front, even if black and Latinos are behind. White people got to say, we'll take the first round of bullets.
Yep.
If we all drop in front, then you can decide what to do. But yeah, we'll take the first round of bullets. Now, not enough people are saying that, right? Like that message still is not being delivered.
Right.
Chris Van Hollen is they're stepping up in this deportation issue because it's a constitutional crisis, but it's also it's a racism crisis too, because he's not just some guy, right? Not Fred Smith, who works at Hewlett Packard, and the white guy who went to whatever Colorado State University, right? He's a Latino guy who's getting who was targeted, right? This is not random.
Like the kid at Tufts and the kid that they're pulling students out of classes, right, and cuffing them and perk walking them like they broke the law. Hold it. How much more innocent can you be here working to help enrich America? Like, these kids came here for an education, and at some point they're going to work here. Yeah, they may go home and take that first class education back to home, but they're going to be ready to do a business with America and a global economy, which is what matters. And this is all about the racism. Because remember, Trump said, we're going to start sending some of our worst criminals to El Salvador too. So you might have to build 5 more jails, he told the El Salvadoran president.
Yeah.
So you know who he's talking about when he says
he's sending. Yeah, you know what he's thinking about.
Yeah, you folks in Atlanta want to act up and commit all these crimes. You folks in LA with this gang violence. You folks in Texas, in Dallas, and Houston with these gang problems. Hey, round them up. We'll send them to El Salvador. Right? Because it's the racism first.
Yeah, it's the
racism. It's the racism that matters to Trump. Right? Because he thinks that's his winning proposition.
That's exactly what he's feeding to his base, right? Like this is absolutely what they voted for, right? And that's why there's still a problem with. That's why it's a little surprising that Chuck Grassley's his constituents sitting there in Iowa are yelling at him about it, because it's exactly what they voted for. So that's
they got no workers, bro. Yeah, remember, their workforce is left. They either got scooped up by ICE, or they voluntarily said, screw this, I'm going back home, or they're hiding, right? Yeah. They don't want to be sent to one of the worst prisons in the world where you have no right. And remember, Brock, you don't get a court date when they grab you. You don't get any rights. You don't get due process. They're not sitting there waiting to have a hearing, right? You're getting scooped up, shipped out, and forgotten about. And what about those people who have nobody advocating for them? What about those folks who don't have access to a lawyer? What about those folks that are here alone and their family is back in whatever Central American country and don't know they're in an El Salvador prison?
Yeah, this one guy in Maryland's gotten a lot of play, but there's there's hundreds of others that are sitting in those prisons, right?
Exactly.
That we don't know their names. It always takes the one, but we don't even know their names.
Right.
So, maybe that's a step in the right direction, that now, that maybe this deportation crisis is bringing up at least the Latino issue, that it's a targeted effort, and it's maybe pushing some white lawmakers to kind of recognize, but they're still not using just the flat out words racism and prejudice and bias, just that this is embedded in Project 2020, in Project 2025. This was a part of the blueprint. This isn't really a surprise. They had the placards at the Republican convention about deportations. This was so much the plan that this was as much of the plan as anything else Trump talked about. The tariffs are more surprising than the deportations.
Exactly. But they had no plan, brah. They didn't how did they not realize that all these deportations would mean nobody's picking the vegetables, nobody's putting the roofs on, nobody's working in the hospitality industry? How many times have you been in a hotel and seen the cleaning staff speaking nothing but Spanish? Right? That happens in just about every hotel you go into. Go down to Florida. Go into one of these hotels. That's the workforce. We're getting rid of the workforce. And we don't have anybody lining up to take these jobs. That means your service is going to suffer. Your hotel is going to suffer.
Trump's destroyed tourism so much the hotels aren't going to need employees because no one's coming to America.
Nobody's
Like
coming.
and the farmers are screwed, but of course now he's talking farmer bailout again because he can't have his white farmers mad at him, right? So like all these elements, like they're all destructive, idiotic, right? Because he's a psychopath and a moron, right? Combined, so we get crazy shit and stupid shit.
Right.
Combined together. But getting back to what we can control, we're getting good. Once again, the oligarchy tour is a home run by Sanders and AOC. Everyone's home for a spring break right now. I'm hoping that means more noise and more made for television or made for online consumption events.
Yep.
But I hope somebody in all these town halls that they're going to do and all the extra time they have to do appearances hits the proper message and talks about unifying and talks the racism angle and doesn't just play the constitutional angle and the economic angle. Like, we gotta, why isn't anyone tying this up into a bigger enchilada that gets everybody out there?
Right.
Why do you think? They're just not used to saying it. They're not comfortable saying it. They don't think they can. They're the ones that can have credibility saying it. Like,
they're not comfortable saying it. They're not comfortable reaching out to a black man, to a Latino man and saying, come join me and let's fight this scourge together. And they're not comfortable saying, you know what? I really hadn't thought about what the black experience was like in America. I really hadn't given much thought to the Latino experience in America, right? Because it implies some sort of wrongdoing on their part. And that's not how Black America thinks. If you come to Black America, you're welcome in our home. We will feed you. We will play music for you. We will entertain you. We will welcome you with open arms. And we want white America to do the same for us. Not just a few, because there are many well-intentioned, good white Americans that I've met. Remember, my son played hockey.
yeah,
I've been to half the arenas on the East Coast.
yeah.
And I have met some amazing Italian, Irish white folks that I just adore and stay in touch with long after our sons are finished playing hockey.
Well,
So it's about your comfortability level. It's about saying, hey, you know what? I may have taken this for granted, but I want to learn more and I'll fight with you. Right? Because now, like you've been saying, I think it's one of the most profound statements you've made since we've been doing this is that we all have a common enemy. And that means we need to work together. Right? We can't do this as a splintered
Yeah, we
faction.
can't do it. It's a bunch of factions.
Yeah.
It's MAGA's a train rolling downhill, and they're in the seat of power. So,
Right.
we've given them the levers of power. So now it's harder to unwind it. Maybe Harry Dunn is a guy. Maybe Harry Dunn can send the message and say, just deliver this message to us, and we'll be behind you.
And we're going. Yep.
Maybe that's what I'll say when I get into my back and forth on Blue Sky with other black podcasters. Say, you guys just keep expressing the message that you need to hear.
Right.
White people like me will amplify it. That will hopefully get it into the more mainstream of what white people are thinking, and maybe some white leaders will latch onto it. And that at some point, someone will put all these pieces of the puzzle together.
Exactly.
We
Right.
get this unified group with the unified message, with an understanding that the end game is we have to unseat Trump. Because the way I say the message is we have to just shut shit down and in essence push Trump out of power. We do a whole podcast on how that could play out and what that could look like. But first we need the overwhelming numbers and the message. And then
Let's hope we get it this
I think
weekend.
has to say to black people is help us unseat Trump, help us defeat MAGA white supremacy, and then the next version of America, we're going to do better about creating a free, fair, democratic, society. Like that's
Absolutely.
and to me that's not that hard for someone to come out and say. I still don't think it's that hard for Bernie to say. But okay, let's get it from somebody else. Maybe
No doubt.
you're asking me. I'm not sure who it is.
Well, just add some color to the oligarchy tour.
Yeah, our job is maybe just to help others with the message.
Right. Well, let's
you're
keep doing it.
in that because you can be like, oh, here's the message that Black America wants to hear.
All right, bro. We'll keep it up. We're back again tomorrow. Let's do it again. Let's hit them harder.
All right. Okay, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Have a great night, my friend.
You too. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Peace.